to Nancy Pelosi and a potential challenger, Ohio Congresswoman Marcia Fudge, engaging in a little trash talk about who will be Speaker in the new Democratic-controlled House. And we're back now with the panel. Well, Congresswoman Edwards, 17 House Democrats have signed a letter saying that they oppose the election of Nancy Pelosi as Speaker, and Marcia Fudge, who we just heard there, is one of them. But you have an article today in the Washington Post with this provocative headline: "Don't blow it, Democrats. There's only one choice to be the next Speaker." And you say that choice is Nancy Pelosi.
Well, that's right.
Why?
Well, I mean, coming out of the 2018 election, where you win the most historic victory that Democrats have had since Watergate, led by Nancy Pelosi, staying on message, raising health care as an issue around the country. And Democrats need to come back and get to work on health care, on infrastructure, on immigration, on government accountability. And instead, they're having a fight about the Speaker. Well, the rest of the country, I think, doesn't really share that, at least among Democrats. And it's time for Democrats to to get together. And I'm convinced that Nancy Pelosi is going to be the next Speaker of the House. I think that she's going to come out with an overwhelming majority in the caucus, and that is going to follow her to the floor. And it should. She's a tactician. She's a strategist. She's held Democrats together. And, look, she raised more than half of the money that Democrats took in to get this House majority.
Jerry, as we say, a number of House candidates, Democrats, campaigned pledging. It was an issue in the campaign, and certainly was an issue in campaign ads. They would not support Nancy Pelosi for Speaker. Do you think she's in any real trouble getting elected?
She's in some trouble, but not real trouble, I think. Look, it's hard in politics to beat something with nothing, and there's no viable alternative. Nobody's built the groundwork. Nobody's laid the predicate for no one person has. And I think in the end, the new members who said they won't support her can vote against her when the Democrats decide who their choice is, but then can vote for her on the floor because there's no alternative, and that gives them a way out. So, again, if you don't have something, you can't beat something. Well, I mean,
Marcia Fudge is at least toying with the idea.
But not there yet.
And if she were, would she be a serious contender?
But, again, no groundwork has really been laid for the serious opposition.
And here's what we know. I mean, when they vote as a caucus, she's going to win. So then she goes to the floor. So then you have a choice. What are they going to do? Are they going to not vote for her? Are they going to, sit silent? Are they going to vote for Kevin McCarthy? I think it will be a very clarifying choice.
Let's turn to the recount, the continuing recount in the Florida Senate race, where there are continuing claims of fraud from both sides. Take a look.
He can't stand the fact that he's not going to be elected for the first time in decades, and he won't. He's just here to steal this election.
He's been using his power as governor to try to undermine the voting process.
Congressman Chaffetz, there are growing signs as the vote starts to come in now from the manual recount that Rick Scott is going to be able to hold on to his lead, which is about 12,500 votes. Is this over? Is he going to take the Senate seat and replace Bill Nelson? And why, not that you're an expert on Florida, but I guess to a certain degree all of us are, why are Florida elections so often a mess?
I don't know. It's embarrassing in Florida. We're having the same problem in Utah, where there are still thousands of votes that have not even been counted for the first time. So the margin is so great for I think we're looking at Senator Scott, because 12,000 votes is insurmountable. Historically, these hand recounts maybe sway 100 or 200 votes here and there, but not the 12,000 that would be necessary.
And do you have any insight into why Florida?
Well, I think Governor Ron DeSantis has a big job and task in front of him that since 2000, you would think we would have cleaned this up. I don't understand why all the counties are going their own direction when somebody in a documented way who's leading elections has the types of problems that she had. She should have been pushed out of office a long time ago. But hopefully,
who could have done it was Governor Rick Scott.
Yeah,
I
think there's a lesson for all the governors out there to pay more attention to this, going into not only the election of 2020, but also the census, which is right on our heels as well.
Jonathan, let's look ahead to 2020, because that one election's over, so the next election begins. And that's not just a congressional election, that's the presidential election. It is interesting that the blue wave, and it's become more of a blue wave as we see the final victories. I mean, it's astonishing. I read today that the entire congressional delegation from Orange County in California is going to be Democrats. Yeah. Reagan country, Goldwater country, it's all going to be Democrats. But the blue wave did not hit in Florida, which is we always think of as the key swing state. What does that tell you about 2020, that it looks like they're going to elect, maybe by small margins, a Republican senator and a Republican governor?
Well, it tells you one thing, which is that, I mean, one thing Trump is right about is that he does have an impact in Florida. Ron DeSantis would not be governor without Donald Trump. He wouldn't have got through that primary. I mean, most Republicans consider him a horrible candidate, and Trump got him right through. Trump's numbers aren't terrible in Florida, but where his problem exists is there is now a very clear path for Democrats to take back the White House, which is through the upper Midwest. And you identified those 3 states. And yes, Donald Trump wasn't on the ballot, but he didn't even go to those 3 states for the very reason that his numbers have fallen so much. So, you know, there is this sort of perennial Democratic fantasy about Arizona and Texas, but they don't need to do that. They can just go through the Midwest.
But, you know, we talked about the speaker's race. You got to beat somebody with somebody. We don't know who the Democratic candidate is going to be. So, yes, there certainly were warning signs in the suburbs, in the upper Rust Belt, but it's Donald Trump against the unknown at this point.
Well, and who rides the wave? Is it somebody who speaks to those voters in those 3 industrial states that you spoke of, or is it somebody who speaks more to the coastal enclaves where the real strength of the party is? And by the way, is Texas a swing state? Ohio doesn't look like a swing state anymore. Ohio looks Republican. Florida looks like a swing state. Texas is a great question mark. Nevada looks more blue, but Arizona looks like a swing state. It is going to be a slightly different, if not significantly different, presidential map in 2020 than the one we've been used to seeing the last.
I'm glad to see that we actually waited, what, a week and a half till after the 2018 elections to start talking about 2020. Thank you, panel. See you next Sunday. Up next, we'll be back with a final word.
Joining meeting.
For more on the Florida recount and the California wildfires, tune to this station and Fox News Channel. And that's it for today. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Fox News Sunday.
Welcome to Waters World. I'm Jesse Waters. The migrant caravan arriving at the U.S. border and tensions rising as they try to gain access to our country, whether through asylum or just by crossing illegally. With thousands of troops deployed, agents in Arizona detaining more than 650 illegal immigrants trying to cross in just 2 days alone this week. One migrant, a Honduran named Henry Salinas, told reporters he plans to overwhelm border agents, going on to say, quote, "It's going to be all against one, one against all of Central America against one, and one against Central America. All against Trump, and Trump against all." Joining me now, conservative columnist Ann Coulter. She's the author of Resistance is Futile. All right, Ann, you know, we heard all the last couple of weeks that this was an invasion, and I think even Jim Acosta said that, you know, Mr. President, they're not going to be climbing any walls. That's not going to happen. Yet, we see all this video. They're climbing the walls. What's going on now?
Yes, oddly, the same thing they've been doing for the past, 50 years. This is why one presidential candidate ran a couple of years ago promising to build a wall. That's why people voted for him. We see that we need a wall. In the absence of a wall, I wish we at least had Attorney General Jeff Sessions.
I mean, but look
we
at
don't
this
even
wall.
have that anymore.
You can't even see this wall. I'm not sure. I mean, these are people that are just straddling the wall and then taunting and yelling things at Border Patrol on the other side. If any Democrat looks at that picture and sees them just like, you know, it's like a jungle gym out there. You just get on, you climb up, you climb down. It's like fun for these people. I don't get it.
Right. Well, Israel has a wall that reduced. They're having a big problem with invaders. They call them, I believe. No, infiltrators. Anyway, coming in from Africa, and they, according to the New York Times, got it down to 0 illegal immigrants crossing into their country. The wall goes very deep down. You don't have to worry about tunnels. Apparently, the old "show me a wall, I'll show you a ladder." The Israelis didn't believe that, so they built a wall, and it's actually working.
Isn't
Maybe
it
we
funny
could get them to build our wall.
Yeah, every time you hear the Democrats, it's always, walls don't work. Walls don't work. And then you see walls all over the rest of the world working to stop people that they don't want coming in here.
It's the craziest thing. It's like the left perseverating something like, wheels don't work. Buckets don't work. They've worked for thousands of years.
Yeah, yet they're the ones driving the cars all over the place. So what's going to happen? You have actually now troops at the border. You have Mattis, who is at the border, who says we don't do stunts. They continue to come up. Some of the people that have reached Tijuana got there first. I guess they're just a little bit more athletic. But the caravan is coming. More caravans are coming. What do you see happening when the clash occurs and you have the actual 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 strong caravan actually getting to the border? What do you see happening then?
There will be 10,000 ACLU lawyers there to hand them their forms of what they're supposed to say to request asylum, assigning them an attorney, showing them how to collect government benefits. No, I mean, this is great, and I wish you would cover this every week, Jesse, because this has been going on for 50 years. This is why voters wanted a wall. That's the only thing that will ultimately work. We do have another omnibus bill coming up, and Trump has threatened to veto it if he doesn't get funding for his wall, which, again, he doesn't need, but there's no one in the White House. Who hired all those people in the White House? No one in the White House to tell him, you don't need Congress to build your wall. You're the commander-in-chief. Just build it. We could really use some changes at Homeland Security. We could use some changes, well, somebody more Sessions-like as Attorney General, but this is the biggest issue facing the country. This is literally an existential issue. We always hear about this, about, you know, an existential crisis for Syria, Afghanistan, Israel. No, this is our country.
Wait, no,
Can we please protect our country?
They say global warming is an existential crisis. I mean, that's a long way out there. I don't even know if people can feel that yet. All right, let's move on. Kamala Harris, you know, the young senator out there in California, she actually compared ICE agents to the KKK. Listen to this exchange on Capitol Hill.
Are you aware of the perception of many about how the power and the discretion at ICE is being used to enforce the laws? And do you see any parallels?
I do not see any parallels between
I'm talking about perception.
Officers and agents.
I'm talking about perception.
I do not see a parallel between what is constitutionally mandated as it relates to enforcing the law.
Are you aware that there's a perception?
I see no.
Are you aware that there's a perception
that puts ICE in the same category as the KKK? Is that what you're asking me?
No, I'm very specific about what I'm asking you. Are you aware that there's a perception that ICE is administering its power in a way that is causing fear and intimidation, particularly among immigrants, and specifically among immigrants coming from Mexico and Central America? Are you aware of that perception?
I do not see a parallel between the power and the authority that ICE has to do its job and the agents and officers who do it professionally and excellently with lots of compassion.
All right, that was Ronald Vitiello, President Trump's nominee to head ICE. Totally irresponsible for the senator to say, it's just like saying, well, you know, Democrats are crazy. Well, no, they're not. Well, no, there's a perception that Democrats are crazy. Come on, what is she doing?
No, I know. Yes, there's a perception created by you, Kamala, and your fellow Democrats.
Exactly.
It's outrageous. It's unbelievable. It's disgusting. I ought to be outraged, but I can't help it. It makes me laugh. This is the left in the Trump era. They've lost their minds. This is why they can't effectively oppose Trump, and resistance is futile. Everything has to be Nazi, white supremacist, white nationalist, KKK. all they do, I mean, what does that even mean? There are no Nazis. No, Trump is not Hitler, though yes, killing 6 million Jews and tweeting a lot. Very similar, I'm sure, in the eyes of a liberal. Peter Brimelow runs an immigration website which is basically Trump's position on immigration, except without the grammatical errors. And the New York Times just starts casually referring to an immigration website. It's just about immigration as white nationalist. Peter Brimelow, white well, he doesn't call himself a white nationalist. It's just, this is the left calling our side a poopy head. They just want to call us names.
Well, I don't know who Peter is, but I do know that the Ku Klux Klan terrorized the South for many, many years and was responsible for hanging African-American people all over the place and burning crosses and intimidating people, and they were eventually eradicated. I just don't see the parallel, right, by Republicans. I don't see the parallel between ICE agents going after drug traffickers, going after human traffickers, going after criminal aliens that have broken our laws and trying to get them deported out of this country. There is no parallel at all.
Well, also to prevent them from undermining the wages of African Americans. I mean, those are the people in America who are being, the one demographic group that's, and I suppose some also Hispanic Americans, who are being hurt the most. And they have the audacity to bring up the Klan. Also, I know a lot of people on our side get sick of Democrats are the real racists. But look, it is an historical fact that the Klan was an outgrowth of the Democratic Party. They often had overlapping membership, and originally the Klan was formed to terrorize Republicans who were going down to the South to make sure black people were voting.
Yeah, everybody needs to learn more history in this country. Trust me, I've been out in the streets. It's a disaster. Let's go to Avenatti. So, I don't even want to laugh about this, because if it's true, and he did punch a woman in the face, it's probably the most despicable thing you can do. And, presumed innocent in this country. We're going to give him due process. The due process he did not give Judge Kavanaugh. But it is kind of ironic that he's now saying, don't believe women. I was set up. This is the exact opposite of what he was saying in August and September.
True, but I would not put him in the same camp with Kavanaugh. I mean, women
absolutely
were
not.
It's just
the theoretically,
memories, no evidence. No, and you're right. I ran into a TMZ cameraman yesterday on the street, and he asked me, why hasn't Trump tweeted anything about Michael Avenatti? And I said, well, because a girl got beaten up. I mean, it's not something you can really, unless you're me, you can't really. But yeah, probably a lot of conservatives did have a slight smile curl their lips on this.
But he's toast now, right?
I mean,
isn't he toast
I do want to,
in terms of politics? CNN's not going to book him. MSNBC's not going to book him. The Democratic Party in Vermont, they canceled his appearance. I mean,
I do want to say this is going to leave a huge hole in the MSNBC schedule, because for months you could not turn on TV without seeing. But I also do want to give credit to TMZ, which has apparently paid off every doorman in the greater Los Angeles area. I mean, their reporting is pretty specific, that with him running into the building afterwards and saying, she hit me first. That's a new one.
I mean, yeah, that's not going to hold up in the courtroom. Not at all. I mean, TMZ, they're wired all over that city. They got everybody on lockdown. They're just, it's an amazing organization, and I can't believe they beat everybody to the punch. Sneaky Snipes, Broward County. So Sneaky Snipes is overseeing this thing, and, they had all this recount and all that. Well, she purposely missed the deadline because when they finished the count, Scott, the Republican, was up. So she added a few votes at the end, and then that delegitimizes the recount, so they have to go with the original count. So now the Democrat added a few votes. Total chaos, but she thinks she's doing a great job, Ann.
Well, I happen to be on site here in Florida for some real reporting. I was talking to a couple of people who spent a few hours there looking at the ballots. And one thing you should always know, I mean, for one thing, all of the reporting on the biggest story of the year has to be done by just random Republicans who are willing to donate their time. I love these news organizations sitting back and saying, well, they say there's cheating, but they have no evidence.
Yeah, no
Trump
evidence.
Has no evidence. Hey, I have an idea. Do you guys have any reporters you could send?
I wonder.
No,
that could be a good idea.
They just call up Southern Poverty Law Center and say, oh no, an expert told us there's never any cheating, there's never vote fraud. Don't worry, you can take it from the Southern Poverty Law Center. What they're doing, as is often the case in these, is the same thing over and over again. The overvotes and undervotes. This is where a person, I mean, you can cancel out your own ballot. You vote for one guy, decide, I don't really care. You vote for two. Okay. You didn't vote for anyone because you voted for both.
You know what, I think I just saw a picture the other day. I saw a picture of a ballot in Broward County, and someone checks the box for Nelson. I didn't even think we might even have it. And then they check the box for Scott. Look, there it is on the screen. Okay, so first of all, I have to say, I know you're a Florida resident sometimes during the year, but Ann, you people down there, I mean, it's not that hard. What are you guys doing? It's like filling out a bubble.
And by the way, keep this in mind whenever you hear sneering elitist liberals talking about what idiots Republicans are. I notice these are all in Democratic precincts. At least our voters know how to fill out a ballot.
That's true.
The undervotes are where they examine a ballot where the voter didn't vote for a candidate at all, which is very common. The Nelson Scott election. Why? Because I would guess Andrew Gillum was running. He's like Florida's Obama. Probably a lot of African Americans went in, voted for the black candidate, and left. It's not that surprising, but for whatever reason, Gillum got more votes than Nelson did. Gillum running for governor, right. The two Democrats, Nelson for Senate. But what they did, and I think they're trying to do now, the Republicans better stop them, what they did in the Minnesota election that elected cheater Al Franken was that they would say, look, this ballot, they voted for Obama. Well, surely they meant to vote for Franken.
Exactly.
We're going to count that as a vote for Franken.
Yeah, exactly.
No!
You know what they're doing? Yeah, they think they know the intention. The will of the voter. They can somehow, through ESP, divine whatever the intention was. All right, Ann, I got to run. It was great talking to you, and hopefully we'll see you around in the coming weeks.
See you soon.
All right, coming up. A tormented Monica Lewinsky reveals never-before-heard details of her affair with Bill Clinton. And an epic outburst in the skies when a woman is denied her wine. Watch this.
Give me a bottle of wine and game over. Otherwise, we arrive in where we arrive in again. Just like fire.
The battle for the gavel is on. Nancy Pelosi, when asked about other Democrats challenging her for Speaker, had this to say.
Say to everybody, come on in, the water's warm.
Oh, Pelosi, a little cocky. Joining me now, the founder of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, and Democratic strategist Kelly Grace Gibson. All right, Kelly Grace, I hear Democrats all the time say how powerful and successful Speaker Pelosi is. You know, when she did have the gavel last time, she almost lost it back immediately. I mean, there was a huge wave after she controlled things because she overreached and went far left on things like Obamacare. How do you know that's not going to happen again?
Well, you don't know it's not going to happen again, but what we do know about Speaker Pelosi is that she championed a ton of bipartisan legislation to make college more affordable people and to have job incentives for clean energy. She has, in her tenure, has raised over $700 million for the Democrats.
Is college more affordable because of Nancy Pelosi?
Well, yeah, because of that piece of bipartisan legislation, there's more access to grants and Pell Grants for college scholarships. So yeah, but will she reach? Yeah. Will people come after the job? Yeah. But Nancy Pelosi is a powerful woman that knows how to make herself relevant.
Yeah, Charlie, do you think Nancy's looking at who's voting against her? I mean, she can be vindictive, as all powerful leaders can be. If you vote against Nancy, you're going to probably get shut out of any sort of leadership position.
Not only that, I mean, look, she rules with an iron fist. You lose your parking spot, you lose your key card, you lose the perks and the access to the cocktail parties. No perks.
It's either
you are
perks.
Totally cut out.
You vote against Pelosi, no perks.
That's exactly right. Well, look, she's in a conundrum here because, look, believe it or not, the Democrat Party consists now of people who think Nancy Pelosi is too moderate, try to figure that one out, and people who think that Nancy Pelosi is too far to the left. And this is going to be a big challenge for her. So you have the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who basically wants to give everything away for free. And then you have some of these people that are trying to bring back the Blue Dog Democrats. And she's had to find some way to reconcile it.
Yeah,
but hey,
they're going to
personally,
have to straddle
the more
that.
she's on TV, the better.
Yeah, no, I know
for
Republicans love her. She definitely raises a lot of money for the right. You brought up Ocasio-Cortez. One of the first things she did, Kelly, was stage a sit-in and a protest about green stuff in Nancy Pelosi's office. Let's take a look at this. I mean, she's, you know, running around with drum circles in the Capitol, you know, dancing around and high-fiving people. This is the first thing she did when she came to Washington, was to protest outside of Pelosi's office. This is going to be a big headache for the speaker, or potential speaker.
She's delivering on her campaign promises from when she was running, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She promised she would support new leadership, and she'll support new leadership. The reality of Nancy Pelosi is she's been doing it for so long, and her tenure is such that she knows how to make the deals. She knows how to create the coalition. So I think that new conversation about leadership is important, but what Speaker Pelosi has done for our party is significant, and it should be realized in this effort to talk about maybe new leadership. I mean, she's a significant woman of power, and that will serve her well, I think, in this process.
Yeah, well, another woman, I think Congresswoman Fudge wants the top spot. I just hope she gets it, because Trump's going to have a field day with that nickname. Pelosi was talking about Al Sharpton. Charlie, listen and react to what Pelosi said about Al Sharpton. Roll it.
Thank you for helping take back America. People all over the place are calling me, writing on the airports here, there. Thank you for saving America. I give those thanks to you. Thank you for saving America. Reverend Sharpton, thank you for saving America.
Well, Charlie, if Sharpton saved America, we're doomed.
Well, my goodness. I mean, look, I've had my own back and forth with Reverend Al Sharpton just a couple weeks ago. He insulted over 400 young black conservatives that we brought to the White House and said some horrible, horrible things about them. But look, for her to think that that guy has any sort of moral stature, to think that he saved anything except his own career by exploiting communities around fear and division. By the way, the IRS called Reverend Al. You still owe some money. But look, if these are the cast of characters in the clown show that the Democrats want to parade around, 2020 is just right around the corner. And, you know, soon-be Speaker Pelosi, sure hope she wins, because it's going to do nothing but help us conservatives and Republicans.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been a wave election. That just might mean that Pelosi can wave goodbye to the majority in 2 years. All right, Kelly, there's a report in Axios, and they do a nice job over there, about 85 potential investigations of the Trump administration and Republicans. Everything from the Comey firing to Trump's transgender ban, the travel ban, family separation, Trump's tax returns, Trump's family businesses. They're reopening the Russia investigation. Do you think that's going to be a positive for the Democrats?
Yeah, I mean, the president has gone basically unchecked since he won the election. So I American people know a little bit something about you that you refuse to give them. That is going to be good for the Democrats, but good for just sort of general Americans.
Let's get to the truth about the oversight, Charlie. I want to play some sound from Adam Schiff, Little Schiff, I think the president calls him. Let's hear what he said about investigations. Roll that.
Investigations are sexy. They're interesting. You bring witnesses before the Klieg lights, people tune in.
Sexy investigations, I think that's what the Democrats are all about.
There's nothing sexy about an investigation.
Well, look, first of all, this idea of unchecked. First of all, you have these judges from Hawaii blocking everything that he does, that he tries to do on immigration, on complete and total baseless rulings. That's number one. Number two, unchecked. This is the most transparent president in American history. Why? Because the media monitors him more than any other president that's ever been in office. I mean, you have platoons of these agenda-driven journalists from the Washington Post, the New York Times, that follow every single move that he makes. So this idea that he's been unchecked is ridiculous, not to mention the amount of freedom of information requests that these left-wing activist groups have been burdening this White House and this president with are unbelievable. And you know what, Mr. Schiff, if you're so into investigations, finish the investigation into what the FBI did and did not do leading into President Trump's surprise victory with all the deep state activity that has proven to be true thanks to Devin Nunes. I bet he's going to shut it down day one.
All right, Kelly, 30 seconds, last word, go.
That it's part of our government's job to have checks and balances, and I think having a more balanced government is going to be a good thing. It's not the media's job. The media's job is to give the American people the information they want to have about their leaders. Donald Trump blocks that every chance he has, including this most recent ploy with the Acosta press route. So I'm just saying that this is a good thing, and President Trump said that if Congress tries to investigate him, he's going to take up war postures. Well, I think that he better get ready, because they're coming for him.
All right, we'll see about that. You know, if they're going to ask for my tax returns, I'd say, hey, let's just open another investigation over crooked Hillary. All right, guys, got to run. See you later. Thank you. All right, we're hearing Hillary maybe actually getting back in the game. Let's see what the voters have to say. Brian Kilmeade and I react next.
3:15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7 at Channel 115.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Lauren Green. Nearly 2 weeks after the midterm election, incumbent Democrat Bill Nelson conceding to his GOP challenger, Governor Rick Scott, earlier today, just after the noon deadline for a manual vote recount, which showed Scott leading by about 10,000 votes. Nelson's defeat marks the first time in a century that 2 Republican senators will represent Florida in Washington. Officials in California increasing the number of homes and other structures destroyed in California to more than 1,100. But firefighters say the fire is now about 88% contained. And up north, crews are stepping up efforts to contain the Camp Fire, now considered the deadliest in U.S. history in a century. At least 76 people have died, and an estimated 1,300 are still unaccounted for.
How many of you want Hillary Clinton to run for president in 2020? Go.
Democrats may be done with Hillary, but have no heir apparent to the party's nomination in 2020. A new Politico poll shows Biden, Bernie, and Beto, for now, leading the dozens of Democrats mulling a White House run. Brian Kilmeade has some thoughts on that. He's co-host of Fox and Friends and the author of the New York Times bestseller, Andrew Jackson and the Miracle of New Orleans, which is now out in paperback. Let's just take on Hillary for a second. I mean, no charisma. She's aging. She's fainting. The donors are probably going to have alligator arms. They're not going to double down on another loser. Husband's lost the fastball. What do you think?
I don't think it's possible. I know Mark Penn wrote that column, and he does know the Clintons very well, even though he's on the outs with them right now. He's probably one of the best guests you can have because he doesn't have a horse in the race, but he's got great insight on the Clintons and what's going on. And I believe that she's going to be a player. If a Democrat wins, I look for her to have a prominent spot. But there's no way she could put up with the rigors. I mean, have you seen her in many book tours? She can't keep up.
Are you saying she doesn't have the strength or the stamina to run for president for a third time?
No question, nor the message. And I don't think they'll have the heart to go back to her, and I don't think anyone will have a problem telling her to go home.
Okay, all right, so Biden now, and he's leading the pack by a significant margin. He's at 26%. I mean, he was at 1% the last couple times he ran for president. He'd have to leech off the Obama donor list. He's kind of a relic, in my opinion. Do you think he has a shot?
77 years old, absolutely not. The biggest fallacy is that Joe Biden is this guy coming along at the perfect time. Now's his time. No. For the last 4 years of the Obama administration, you didn't see much because we saw the first 4 years. Because when you don't give him a script and you let him go, he embarrassed
He's
President
not
Obama.
Disciplined.
No discipline. The working class thing is a bit of an act. I think he gets carried away with himself. I think he'll be destroyed and eaten up by President Trump. And here's the thing. The person that's going to beat President Trump is somebody that's not going to go directly at him.
Okay, well, that brings
kill him with charm.
That brings us to O'Rourke. Now, O'Rourke, I'm not sure he's got the sharp elbows. I think if he was running, he'd probably play nice in the Democratic primary. He didn't really go for the jugular against Ted Cruz, but he's so untested. Yes, he could raise a lot of money from small donors, but on a national level, do you think he's got a shot?
Oh, listen, I think he's got a couple of things going for him. He's got the charisma, charm, and likability. He's already got $36 to $50 million.
Are you charmed by him?
Who you talk to? Personally, not charmed, but we can both respect people that are good on camera, that are very comfortable in their own skin.
Yes, he's very comfortable.
My problem is he's way too far to the left, and as been brought up before, he could have taken Ted Cruz if he was moderate. But his policies were way out
He
there.
said kneeling for the anthem was patriotic in Texas.
Right.
That was a big mistake. Okay, speaking of too far to the left, Sanders. Now, Sanders is performing pretty well. He's at 19% in this poll, but I feel like his moment was last time.
I don't think
And
his
the power brokers in the Democratic Party, they're not going to let him take the nomination.
Jesse, how would you feel about this? You're in a party that's not the Democratic Party isn't necessarily your party. I got to look more into your background and Google you and see if you're there. But he doesn't want to be a Democrat. He was asked again, "Are you a Democratic? You a part of the Democratic Party?" He said no. So he wants to go win a nomination at a party.
And
he
look at
can't
his hair,
subscribe to.
Brian. Look at his hair.
Right.
Can you run for president with hair like that?
He's not happy. He's too old. He's a socialist. Pick one of the three.
Okay.
He's shot.
All right. Let's go to Elizabeth Warren quickly. I think she's toast. She totally imploded. You?
Regional candidate at best. Smart, but I don't think by any chance she goes through Middle America, even the West Coast. I think the one that's interesting is Kamala Harris. She's got to get happy. She's got to talk more.
She's not likable.
She's too quiet.
I don't think she's likable. I think she's young, she's attractive, female, African-American. She can raise a lot of money in California. But there's something that's, like you said, O'Rourke was charming. I don't see her as charming.
Here's not charming because we haven't seen enough of her. We're only seeing the attack mode. But I would say this. The person that could beat Trump, it's not going to be who's going to out-tough Trump. You don't go directly at him, point out the thing he does well, and say how you're going to be different. Do not punch back. He does not like being the bully. He likes being the one that avenges. If you don't let him avenge, you say, he's turning around the economy. He's got a great personal story. I appreciate his family, but this is how I'm different. That's the combination that will keep the Trump people down, and it'll keep Donald Trump from punching first. He doesn't like punching first.
All right, he's a counterpuncher. Brian Kilmeade, also a counterpuncher. Go buy his book. Up next, Diamond and Silk on Sneaky Snipes and Avenatti. Wow. Right back. Lewinsky back in the spotlight, sharing new details about her affair with Bill Clinton, saying the aftermath was so painful that she became suicidal. Listen.
In the shutdown period, I remember looking out the window and thinking that the only way to fix this was to kill myself, was to jump out the window. And I felt terrible. I was scared, and I was mortified and afraid of what this was going to do to my family. And
pretty powerful exposition by Monica Lewinsky. Obviously, it took a real toll on her emotionally at the time. She's still kind of reeling from that, apparently. What do you guys think about how that whole thing went down and now is resurfacing?
Well, you know, first of all, I think that she was taken advantage of by an older man, a powerful older man named Bill Clinton. I'm so happy to see her and hear her tell her story. Sometimes you have to get that out to set yourself free. So I'm happy she's able to tell her story, and whoever agree. If they don't, they don't. But her story do need to be told.
That's right. Not only tell her story, but tell her truth about it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was a very tough time in the 90s for the country. Everybody struggled with that, and it really divided the nation. And if you look back on that now, if that had happened today with the Me Too movement, it would have gone a completely different way. All right, let's get to Michael Avenatti. You know, the lawyer representing Stormy Daniels kind of skyrocketed to fame with that, and now has allegedly punched a woman in the face. He was booked on charges, and the woman's face was bruised and battered. Here's what he said when he came out of the jail.
I have never struck a woman. I never will strike a woman. I have been an advocate for women's rights my entire career, and I'm going to continue to be an advocate. I am not going to be intimidated from stopping what I am doing. I am looking forward to a full investigation, at which point I am confident that I will be fully exonerated. I also want to thank everyone for their support that has reached out. You know my character.
So, listen, he's innocent until proven guilty. That's the way we do things here in America. He didn't give Judge Kavanaugh that kind of deference. But the bottom line is, if he is guilty and he actually punched some woman, allegedly he told TMZ that she hit me first. She hit me first is not a very good presidential campaign slogan. I think this guy's toast. He's probably going to go bankrupt.
Absolutely. And, you know, I don't think he's going to beat this charge. Listen, you have to understand, you may not pay what you owe, but you will reap what you sow. And he said, believe all women. So that's why a lot of Americans are believing the woman on this.
And then with him also saying that he's going to run for president, if he do decide to run for president, at least he do know he can't beat a woman.
That's right. I mean, we already know he's running from the IRS. The guy owes millions, and looks like his life is crumbling down upon him. It's very, very sad. All right. Lastly, Sneaky Snipes, you know, the woman overseeing the Broward County election. It's a mess. Everybody knows it. She actually had the gall to say things were going smoothly. Listen to this.
I'd like to call to your attention that this midterm election, in addition to running very smoothly, was one of the most highly participated midterm elections probably that we've had in 20 years or more.
Yeah, so every county in Florida is finished, and she's still counting. She has no idea the vote count. Sneaky snipes, ladies, what do you think?
Listen, I think she has a vacuous mindset. Not only that, you have to understand this is just a rehearsal for the Art of the Steal in 2020.
Oh, the Art of the Steal, wow.
Art of the Steal in 2020, this is what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And shame on her for starting this whole fiasco, and it has us all questioning the integrity of an election. I think when DeSantis becomes sworn in as governor, he needs to first fire her, and she needs to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
That's right, and her initials represent what's going on in Florida very clearly. BS.
Okay. All right, ladies. Great talking to you as always. Go check them out. They're on tour and they got the movie out and everything. All right. Up next, the tough questions for a change that I'm going to be answering.